Seems fair to me.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. And this hour, we're going to tell you how you can join us June the 15th at our Donny Bash 2023. It's our live broadcast to raise money for 9PBS. We hope you join us. Details around the corner. But first, let's meet those who are assembled around the big brown table for this edition. Wooden table, that's a good one. Wendy Wiese is back from the Jennifer and Wendy Show on the Big 550 KTRS. Bill McClellan from STLtoday.com and the Post-Dispatch. Ray Hartmann from RawStory.com, the Riverfront Times, and St. Louis in the Know on 550. And editor and sports columnist with the St. Louis American, Alvin Reid. Bill, we're going to start with you because this week the 3 aldermen from the city of St. Louis who earlier in the year admitted to bribery were sentenced in federal court, and you were there. As it turns out, 2 of them got 45 months and 1 got 36 months for bribery. And, well, just overall, your impressions of being in the courtroom this past week.
Well, I thought it was, the whole case was surreal. I mean, so I went in there with that sense about it, that there's something really strange here. You know, the alderman just taking the money from somebody who was under federal indictment already, and you think that they would at least Google the guy, and then he gives them cash from his cash machine, and it's like, where do you get those? Well, that's at the Federal Informant Supply Store. Oh, you know, I mean, the alarm bells should have gone off for somebody. But I was there. The first fellow who was sentenced was John Collins Muhammad, and I don't know him, but he does seem like the kind of young man that could do something really dumb. I mean, you know, he's always been in the news for these little goofball things. You know, he's driving without a license, or he had a speeding ticket and now there's a warrant out for him, or he tweeted something. You know, so I could see him doing something silly. Jeffrey Boyd and Louis Reid have been around for a long time. You know, and I've written about this for Sunday. And, you know, we can make fun of politicians, but that's a competitive world. And those people, they have enemies, and it's really not for dumb people. And Jeffrey Boyd and Louis Reid have never given me the impression of being dumb, of being capable of doing something this ridiculous, and yet they did. And the judge, this is the first time I've been in his courtroom, Stephen Clark, you know, he's a Trump appointee, Federalist Society guy. I don't even know what that means, but he did not like John Collins Muhammad. That was the impression I got. And you know, the victims can speak at these things. And since this was a public corruption trial, the whole world is a victim, you know, because this was against the system. And so you had a couple people speak who I thought were very eloquent in talking about what a poor alderman Collins Muhammad was. But one fella came up then, and I don't even know if he lives in the ward, a white guy with a cane, an older guy, and walked up there and he said, "I'm a Vietnam veteran and I've seen friends die. Throw the book at him." And I thought, what does that have to do with anything? But well, you know, so it was very odd.
Well, so they get almost 4 years and 3 years, you know, respectively. Now, when Steve Stenger got his 4 years, he ended up serving less than 2. I mean,
I think that's what'll happen. For all those that are, you know, it's like, oh, that seems like harsh or whatever. And I have pointed out that, well, you know, the county executive got kind of the exact same thing. I don't think they'll serve the full 4 years. I think it is still punishment. and I think it is punishment deserved. And you don't fall in this category, but one reason I didn't go, because I didn't want to be sitting there like a vulture, because we've written a lot about them, and it's been sometimes combative. So I didn't want to just be sitting there, you know, scrutinizing, because it was a sad day. But, you know, John Collins Muhammad, okay, don't wear, you're going to get sentenced. Leave the coat with the fur.
Right, the Huggy Bear.
He looked like Frenchie Fuqua.
I thought Huggy
You know,
Bear.
and I'm not, it's a sad day all the way around. But, you know, my biggest problem would be the judge would have had to tell me, Mr. Reid, could you stop crying so I can sentence you? Because I just walk in tears.
Right.
I would not walk into the courtroom looking like,
fly.
hey, after I get out of here, I'm going to go to a Christmas party. And, you know, it's like, it's not Goodfellas, you know, like, now take me to jail.
Right.
He was Hollywood. I will say, though,
and
what they did, these guys, you know, in exchange for money, they
And not a lot
guaranteed
of
that these
money.
people would pay fewer taxes for the schools and other necessary services. So they really robbed the taxpayer, and I thought they should have gotten more than 3 years or 4 years.
I was okay with the length of time. Lewis Reid was heartbreaking for me because, as you eloquently point out, he's one of those. I've always thought he was very impressive, incredibly impressive in public forums, when he's making his case for the city of St. Louis, when he's out, you know, talking to the voters. Very impressive. And to me, if you're smart enough to get there, you're smart enough to stay there. That's what really shocked me. This, as you said, Bill, this just seemed like something that he would be too bright to engage in.
You know, I should say this too, that as far as the time goes, most of the people that I've talked to who've done white-collar crimes and gotten out said that it isn't the camp that's so bad, and it's really not the time that's so bad. It's that once you get out, you can't find work.
Right.
I mean, people won't hire you, and you have to be an entrepreneur. And, you know, Lewis Reid is 60.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult for him. Jeffrey Boyd is 58 or 59.
But how could Lewis Reid have said, don't judge the system based on my actions, when he represented the system? I
Well,
don't
we don't know if
understand.
it was Mr. Reid's first time. We only know this is the time that he got caught. Don't forget, Megan Green, back when we were thinking about building a new stadium for Stan Kroenke, said that her fellow aldermen were taking bribes. And people like me laughed at her because she was presenting no evidence. Who knows what she knew? I was once on a panel for 2-hour discussion with Lewis Reid with a guy named Thomas App, who'd flown into St. Louis from Harvard. He had worked for President Obama, the Justice Department, and he outlined this great anti-crime program called Focused Deterrence that lowered homicides in all these major cities. And Lewis Reid listened to it, and he ignored all of it. And he went with something called Cure Violence out of Chicago, where homicides were sky high. Well, now an employee of Cure Violence has been indicted for hiding important information in a murder case. And you just wonder, why did, for example, Lewis Reid...
Well, that's just it.
You wonder about, now that we know that he's been taking money, you wonder about things like that.
I guess, but I mean, look, I've said before, he's a friend. Not a social friend at all, but I feel kind of sad for him. I thought the punishment range was roughly. It's hard because we don't have the benefit of knowing what other people get, and it's hard to just pick a number and say, well, that's right or that's wrong. That was reasonable. As far as people getting out early, the system's generally set up, most prison systems are set up to reward people for good behavior. And I don't have a problem. Sometimes, no, I don't, because you can't, if you make you have to incentivize people to be good citizens within the prison and do the things you ask them to do, and I don't have a problem with that. And some of these more recent ones, there were some COVID reasons for people getting out. So I just think, you know, they did the crime, they pay the time, and I don't think we need to.
I think that
I think that's it.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Hal Goldsmith seemed satisfied with the time.
Right, and he's a good he is a
Clark-
good prosecutor.
Clark has been known,
Right.
I was told, to sentence above the guidelines.
Right. Well, if he's a Federalist Society guy, and Goldsmith is a good. I mean, I don't think anybody should question now
He's excellent.
How
No
good he
one's
is. I
questioning
mean,
Nobody
and,
has.
you
No.
know,
Well, because he also sent Steve Stenger.
yeah,
But
he
Steve
is a
Stenger
good
got out
prosecutor.
early because he had gone through a drug rehab program
that's
while
a
in prison.
reasonable. I
I,
mean,
don't think so. I think if you get 48 months, you should serve.
Well, I
most
disagree.
of it.
I could see circumstances where you didn't have to. I agree.
Maybe so.
Some,
Okay.
I would say
Well,
you got to stay.
Speaking of Law and Order, Dan McLaughlin, very talented and well-liked broadcaster Ray Hartmann, one of the television
Right.
voices of the
Right.
St. Louis Cardinals, has been arrested for DUI. This is his third time. He was guilty the first 2 times, and now he's been suspended by Bally Sports Midwest from his job for being the play-by-play guy for the Billikens basketball. What's going to happen to Dan McLaughlin?
I'm glad I said I was friends with Lewis. I was also friends with Dan McClellan. This is a good night for my friend. Dan and I played softball together for years before he was a broadcaster. He's a great broadcaster, obviously, people. As far as the Cardinals go, it's just a business decision. I think it's not the Cardinals' job to punish him. I'm not going to tell the Cardinals what they ought to do. I mean, obviously, because he's the voice and the face of the team, it's a different decision. It's not their job to punish him. They got it is the job of the law. Now, where so I don't care. Hopefully I'd be happy if he kept his job. But on the side of the law, I think what we don't see enough, and whether it's his third time or second with an SIS, whatever he did, we need to take away the driver's licenses of people who get, and from the first one on, people need to lose their driving privileges. Now, I don't know how long, because it's got to be done lawfully, and technically this is his second, not his third, although he's been arrested 3 times. But the point is, that's what I'd like to see happen more often, particularly with repeat offenders, is a lengthy period without driving.
Getting back to Dan McLaughlin, I don't think there's any way the Cardinals or Bally Sports can keep him on. And I don't know him, but I hear he's a nice fellow.
Yes.
But this is his 3rd time, and they haven't been, stops where they're monitoring and they stop you, and this person's a little over the line. But, the first one, people were calling about an erratic driver. The second one, he ran into something. There was an accident. And this time, people were calling, too. I mean, that's being a menace on the road. And, it would be nice to say, well, this is really a disease. This isn't his fault. But you can't say that with drunk drivers.
I'm not saying
And I know you're not. I'm just saying that if anybody wanted to make that defense, the problem is if you're saying, well, it's not his fault because he's not responsible for it, that's like saying, well, it'll happen again and again. So I don't think the Cardinals, Bally Sports, have a choice. I think they have to let him go.
Yeah, you cannot, if you are the Cardinals, if you are Bally Sports, with this kind of established behavior, you just can't roll the dice again. And everybody wants him to be well, and everybody wants him to be the very best version of himself that he can be. But if I'm the Cardinals or Bally Sports, you have a very clear decision, because the next time, God forbid there would be a next time, if anyone was hurt, then you are now complicit.
If he had hurt someone on this incident, I think they would have been charged with complicity.
I agree.
And I think there would also be more looking into where were you at, where were you coming from, all that. Was this going on at some kind of function? I know the Cardinals aren't playing, right now. There's a couple things I wonder. All right, one is, maybe people out there over the last, decade have 3. And, we just never heard about it. But was the reaction the same? Did they keep their job? What, how did that turn out? And then 2, this didn't happen too long ago. The St. Louis Cardinals lost an active player to drunk driving.
Josh.
And if there was any franchise that would say, like, we're not having this now, that's just like I'm sorry, but so after the second one, you would think that, they might have said, like, we're a little different.
And that may be, and I'm not going to criticize them if they do. And again, I'm the one that I really think our society is way too lenient in general on how we punish DWI, and I'm not backing off of that. But I think that we have too many people that have ADU. I think once you've had a couple, you just shouldn't be driving. But back to this, as far as his losing his job, it's a public relations decision. That's all it is.
Losing his job is the least of his concerns.
Decision.
Losing his job is the least of his concerns.
Well, no, it is a big.
He's
if he
facing
worked
prison time at this
well,
point.
no, and I didn't say.
And if he goes to jail, he's not calling any games,
well,
Ray.
obviously, I don't because
Obviously, he has to pay a price. I
there are
agree with your
state-
point that
the
he should
problem
lose
he-
his
the problem with-
license,
he's-
for sure.
He's very.
But
He's not going to jail.
his problem is
You don't
he's
think
in
he's
the.
really going to
Ray,
jail?
I don't know.
going
The
to jail?
state statute's 5 years. It's been 12 years since he had one. They're not going to put him in jail.
So
you want to
can
bet?
get- you
I'm
can
not
get-
saying
you can
right,
get
wrong,
charged
or
with
different.
felony DWI. You
No.
committed a felony.
Well, the
it's
problem
on
is-
record. And
I'm just
what?
telling you, I don't think he's going to jail.
What?
But
That's he
just
can't
my
do the
guess.
first game of the doubleheader or something?
Hey, I
what?
don't want to be. I'm not minimizing the system. I'm just telling you.
Kinda
Here's a
sounds like
prediction
it.
that
It's
he's
not
not going
public-
to jail.
This is not
You
public
might be right.
relations.
I don't
But
think,
I
but
actually
I'm
think-
just saying, and whether he should is fine.
Well,
I'm just
Ray, I
saying
think that your
the
idea
Cardinals,
that if he has to give
I
up
think
his
people
driver's
should-
license,
I-
excuse me,
I definitely
think that would
think
not
that
be a bad thing.
I think it'd be a good thing, and I think more people on the first offense ought to be suspended for some time.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree.
think anybody should get any kind of DUI without some
Well,
loss of that privilege.
it's a real odd dynamic with these DWIs, especially with sports people, because everybody who at the ball game was having a beer, who's at the sports bar, how do they get home?
Right.
They're driving.
Right.
And, Tony La Russa, when he got his first DUI in Florida, he got a standing ovation the next morning.
How about David Freese? David Freese had .23. I remember saying, if you were to punish him, just put a point on his uniform number. I mean, because he was 23, and he had a .23, and he had multiple DWIs. And so my point is, and if Dan McLaughlin worked in the front office, nobody would be talking about firing him. Now, because he's...
I think that's wrong,
not
Rick.
true.
No, if he wasn't
No, that's
known,
not
if he
true.
wasn't known,
That's not true.
a company
Ray,
wouldn't fire him. I wouldn't blame the
I
Cardinals
think
if they
Ray's
did.
right on
If
that,
the
man.
Cardinals,
Well,
if he was an
If
unknown
the
employer.
general manager of the St. Louis
No,
Cardinals...
I didn't say the general manager. I said if he worked just in
Well,
a
if
front
you're
office
saying-
job.
I remember
and
he was
the
just a
story
player.
of,
If you're saying-
of one of the teams, and
If he worked as a reporter at the Post-Dispatch, they wouldn't fire him.
Okay.
My
He's
point
the
is,
voice
my-
and the
I know.
face,
I
or what-
said.
right.
I said
All
I
right.
wouldn't blame him
Hold
if
the
they
thought.
did because
Okay.
of that.
Hold the thought, because we're going to continue in just a moment with this and other topics. But first, we want to invite you to join us for Donny Bash 2023. It's next June, and with the details, we go to Mardia.
Thank you, Charlie. Hey, everyone. I'm Mardia Crowder, Member and Viewer Experience Manager here at 9 PBS. And I am so excited to be here with you as we enjoy yet another amazing discussion with the Donnybrokers. And you have an amazing opportunity to see the Donnybrokers live in person at the Sheldon Concert Hall. So that's coming up. We want to say thank you, because when you become a member, you are helping us to create content like what you're watching right now, and so many more of your favorites, like All Creatures Great and Small, Miss Scarlet and the Duke, and so much more. That is only done because of members and viewers like you. So we want to say thank you. Let's dive into those thank you gifts. So at the $75 level, one time, you'll receive either a ticket to Donny Bash, or you'll receive the awesome campfire mug. I am absolutely adoring this mug. So that's at the $75 level, one time, either the ticket or the mug. However, you do have a great opportunity to receive both. At the $12 a month level, you'll receive both two tickets and the mug. That's right, 2 tickets. So you can bring your spouse, or you can bring a friend, or a stranger off the street and just say, hey, I have this awesome show that I want to go to, and I think you'd love it. So invite whoever you want, but you get the choice, or you get the chance to see Donny Bash live on June 15th of 2023 at 6 p.m. at one of my very favorite places in St. Louis, the Sheldon Concert Hall. So both of those levels give you access to 9 PBS Passport, which gives you extended access to a wide variety of PBS programs on demand, as well as the 9 PBS magazine. So give us a call or text GIVE to 800-568-9099, or go to the website 9pbs.org. Thanks, and let's go back to the conversation.
No, I hear exactly.
Hey, it's going to be a great time. We hope you join us June the 15th next year. And hey, it's the holiday season, and if you're thinking of getting me or anyone else a holiday gift, this is the time to call that number and get some tickets to Donny Bash. We didn't even mention this last week, but yeah, for whatever holiday you celebrate, you want to get that loved one on that shopping list, a great gift. And, Mom and Dad probably have everything that they need. How about an experience that they've never had? And that would be a trip to the the Sheldon, June the 15th, for a live broadcast of your favorite television program, Donnybrook.
I agreed, and I mean, it's the, like you said, holiday season, a great gift. I think people who go for the first time, it's one of those things where, like, you really don't know, and then it's afterwards, so like, I really enjoyed that. That's what I hear a lot, and that that's satisfying. They're like, oh, I mean, I hope you didn't hate it, but I am glad that you really enjoyed it.
We don't give too many refunds.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Right. Thank you.
No, but
Right. You can keep your bugs.
Speaking of refunds, $144 for 2 tickets. That is outrageously.
I agree.
I mean, that is
cheap.
So
Inexpensive,
cheap.
yes.
Right.
So cheap, outrageously reasonable, if that's the phrase.
I thought you were going the other way.
No,
for
no, that's
outrageous? What are
no,
you
not
doing?
at all.
What are you doing to us
And
here?
especially, no, we hear from so many people at Donny Bash. They approach us and they'll say, "We gave this to each other for Christmas or for our anniversary." Now that means that this is a romantic. That can be in a romantic occasion,
I don't
right? For a
think- come
couple
on
who've
now,
been married
listen.
a long time.
Maybe, I guess. I just think it's fun. And I mean, maybe. if
People
it is-
love Donny
We'll
Bash.
get you a table
And the
with
Sheldon
candles.
is a great
don't-
venue. I mean,
Exactly.
you're getting up, you're coming out to Midtown. Sheldon is a terrific place to be.
And there's an electricity in the air at Donny Bash.
Live TV.
Truly.
Yeah, you are on
Truly.
TV. Right.
Yeah.
You're there, so you're on TV also. And I think people get a kick out of that too.
Well,
And
and
just seeing people strike up friendships too.
And for us, it's actually, we're the beneficiaries because it's so much, it's very rewarding for us to meet so many people who have been such great supporters of 9 and our program for so long. And it really is. And they're just, everybody's nice. I mean, even you could tell sometimes if somebody, you know, at least if you're me, you can see somebody who's like, well, I never agree with you, of course, but, you know, but I mean, it's still, and of course, I don't
Yeah,
agree
it
with
is.
me either most of the time.
It is
but
cordial.
the point is, but it's a great opportunity
It
for
is.
us as well as for the audience.
And so we invite everyone to pick up the phone and call the number you see on your screen and join us June the 15th. And thank you very much in advance for your cooperation. Although I read somewhere recently that is passive-aggressive to say thank you in advance for your help.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah. New York Times or Wall Street Journal said, don't say that in a memo. Anyway.
Oh, wow.
By
I
the way,
never understood that passive-aggressive stuff.
It's when you say thank
Don't
you in
give
advance.
us an example.
hey,
think-
I don't want to be passive-aggressive, but we're going to be at the Schnucks parking lot on the 16th. That's a Friday, ringing bells for the Salvation Army between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. And we invite everybody to join us. Again, that's the Schnucks Ladue at 170 and Ladue Road. And I think that's all we're asking for when it comes to money at this point. Who do we go to now? I think it's you, Bill McClellan. Nick Ragone is the head of Ascension Health in St. Louis, and he's also the guy who started the Ascension Charity Golf Tournament in Normandy, and there they just raised $1 million that they give to charity. He thinks that sports and philanthropy are a good combination for selling St. Louis, and he also thinks, in an opinion he gave to your boss, Ian Caso of the Post-Dispatch, the publisher there, he said in this podcast that he thinks St. Louis, our area, needs a nationwide campaign, an advertising campaign on social media, television, radio, print, of course. And the idea would be to sell folks on what they're missing here in St. Louis. The great restaurants, the quality of life, the arts.
Ocean.
Well, maybe not the ocean.
Mountains.
Do you think there should be such a campaign?
Well, if my boss, Ian Caso, thinks so,
Yeah.
then I think so. But otherwise, if it was just up to me independently, I go, I just don't know where you go with that. I mean, it seems like first you have to improve things a bit before you can say, come on down.
I disagree with my fellow founder.
Good.
I think it's a great idea. And by the way, I've had an opportunity at the radio stations to see what they've done with the Ascension Golf Tournament out at Norwood Hills. It is remarkable how they've built that to raise $1 million. It's really a very cool event. The seniors and stuff, the seniors players, and so it's a great event. And I completely agree with him. I think you know, first of all, I think he's right. I mean, we have this inferiority complex, but the fact of the matter is, you will find few metropolitan areas with better food than this one in the U.S. You will find, you know, few with better cultural institutions. We have a lot of positive things. We obviously have a lot of problems, but we're also not the only ones that have problems. Everybody has a crime problem, and I think that that having a, if it's done right and realistically, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that.
Listen, as far as this campaign is, I'm all for it. And if I'm in charge of it, the first word is when we come in to sit down about our ideas, is like, what problems? Like my commercial says, like, we don't have problems in St. Louis. We got baby ducks. You know, like we have, and one would be how inexpensive it is to live here. You know, one would be this, one would be that. The Cardinals would be part of it. The Blues would be part of it.
The zoo. I mean, you're talking about the cultural thing.
The zoo would be.
This got me convinced.
I am being very, very honest at this moment. In 2018, we paid a very handsome, tidy sum to have our daughter's wedding at the Ballpark Hilton in downtown St. Louis. It was an unbelievably beautiful affair. One night, 24 hours later, there was a shooting at Patty O'Brien's or someplace very close to the hotel. I think, and I love this town as much as anybody else, I think we have to do a little bit more work before we start pulling people in. I agree with Bill. I agree with Bill.
That defeats the purpose of the whole thing.
I mean,
I'm sorry, it's terrible. We have terrible things happen. I guarantee you. Right, New York ain't stopping to advertise in New York. Okay, right. Chicago's got plenty of
that's because
let me tell you something you might not have thought of.
Las Vegas had a big horrible
Chicago.
I recently had a coffee with a headhunter. Not because I'm looking for other work. Don't worry about that. No.
Start the rumor.
And she told me,
hey, honey,
that no, seriously. She told me that 2 female candidates for jobs to come to St. Louis to work here rejected it because they don't want to raise their daughters in a state with our abortion law.
All right, now,
well, that's a different.
But you don't put that in there.
Oh, you think that's
you don't put that in your campaign, of course.
Right.
Not crime.
Speak of law and order and all that.
I think
this is Missouri. That's Illinois.
Well, no, I think that's a price you pay as a state. But I do. Yes, I think it's valid if that's what they're concerned about. But I mean, it'd be valid in the other direction if somebody was opposed to abortion. But my point is that to Alvin, you cannot. And again, as a tourism person, once upon a time, you have to promote yourself.
Okay,
you have to promote
Alvin,
yourself.
Let me ask you, Wendy brought up crime in St. Louis, and this past week you attended the forum that was held by the city of St. Louis, where 4 candidates for police chief explained themselves. On Monday, City Hall announced that there'd be 4 candidates for the police chief position that back in June of last year, John Hayden said he was giving up. It's been a while since we haven't had a full-time police chief. On Tuesday night, 3 of them were here. 1 was here via Zoom. What were your impressions? Do we have some good candidates?
Well, I think we do. I was. It was interesting that the gentleman from Wilmington was the first police chief in Wilmington that was not from Wilmington in the history of the city.
That was Tracy.
Yes.
Right.
All right. And he had worked in New York, and he had worked in Chicago, and he had found success. And as far as the statistics he quoted, he had found success in, reducing crime in Wilmington. He then announces that regardless if I get this job or not, I'm done there. And it sounds like, yeah, ain't nobody weeping. So it's kind of like,
I mean, he had a vote of no confidence.
Yeah. And you're kind of like, oh.
Well, why would we want a guy?
And questions about diversity. So it's like.
I'll tell you why. Because we kicked Joe Torre out of this town, and he won 4 out of the 5 next World Series for the New York Yankees.
Right, but he was here. I mean, I'm just saying, like.
But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, the cornerstone, the builders rejected.
Yeah. Now, I thought the candidate, Boone from Norfolk, I think, was the best as far as a chief, being positive and forthwith.
He would start the commercial campaign.
There you go. Okay, I was going to say, and being good on television and handling that side of it, I think he would be very good at that. He had a very poignant story about he grew up under really bad circumstances, was not friends with the police, ultimately left, I think, Jersey City, New Jersey, lived in Georgia, played football, saw a police officer on the sideline, said, like, you know what, I think I want to do that. And he made that his career. He has an interesting story, okay? I just don't want to discount Michael Sack either, because his story of being a priest, you know, pretty much, and saying, I want to do something else, and the compassion he showed after the school shootings, and the job he's done as interim, I don't think that can be discounted. Then the fourth gent was on Zoom, and it was rainy and cold outside, so it was a lot of murmuring. And
but why would someone want to come here and take this position? You have a divided police force that actually right now both associations, the Police Officers Association and the Ethical Society of Police,
odds with the mayor,
want the state to take over. We have.
They haven't said that, though.
The Ethical Society of Police has.
I'm not sure they have exactly said that.
In
Then
those
you
words.
have, right now, 800 police have left since 2017, and they have something called Mount Exodus, where they put their uniforms on a pile when they leave, and it's now 7 feet high.
Let me respond to that. Because I cover a lot of things for our story in a lot of different cities. No, I do, on this subject. And every police department in the country could just about, I would think, would answer to those kinds of criticism, that they have trouble retaining people right now across the country. They have morale problems. They have systemic racism. They have all the things you just laid out. They are not unique to St. Louis. So to answer your question, it is a challenging job. It is not the only one, and it's not the most challenging job. And what I did like about this, and you had a great assessment of the candidates. I'll defer to Alvin on the specifics. But the process I liked. The fact that there was a sense that the police officers, potential police chiefs, should present themselves and make their case. I love that.
I was encouraged by the fact that 150 people showed up.
And
I
it
actually
was,
thought that was
not the nicest night.
Right.
And I went with I did not know who was going to be there.
Right.
And it was at Bashan, and it was
a good
I think
atmosphere.
it was a good,
Yes,
pretty good atmosphere.
But the press couldn't ask questions. The citizens couldn't pose questions.
No, and that was not the. No, I have no problem because that was.
There will be a time for that.
The press should ask questions.
No, not at this thing.
Everybody
There will be a time for these guys to present themselves.
No,
Charlie. Took so long. Let me
Charlie, you've got such a negative attitude going into this. It's crazy. It's nuts.
When Eric Adams was elected mayor of New York in November of 2021, he had his new police commissioner by December. Hayden quit 18 months ago, and we still don't have a full-time.
Now you just jumped from why couldn't people ask questions to something about New York.
Well, because I got a lot of issues.
All right, but I will say this, that the reason somebody wants to take the job is because they want to be the police chief of a major metropolitan area. I mean, I want to be a head football coach. The job accessible to me is to Houston, Texas. You know, like they ain't gonna fire Bill Belichick, so I can take over.
You got it.
You know, hey,
It's
dude,
also you can improve upon 1 and 11.
And plus, when there are problems, that's when you can make a difference.
Right.
True.
And then your next job, you might be a police chief of L.A. or
Let me tell you, these aren't just problems. 5-6 years ago, Sam Dotson was saying that he didn't have enough police officers, and he had 1,200. We are now down to 811.
Everybody has these problems.
Let me tell you something.
They do.
And let me tell you something. We shouldn't have a dynamic police chief. We shouldn't have a police force.
You want to just give up
But who would want the job except someone who's been booted out of the town?
No, that's not true.
Now, wait a
one
minute.
of the four.
Who wants a job? Let's
You
be
want to
honest
give it to
here.
Joe Torre.
Who wants a job in journalism right now? Who wants a job at KMOX right now? Who wants a job at KMOV right now? Because all you're looking around is like, oh, man, everybody's leaving. Nobody's getting paid. They got 2 people down there. All right, you know, but yet young people or some other people are saying like, no, this is my chance.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, to be continued on this topic because we've got a lot of topics. Wendy, Wiese, people say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but there might be in Missouri because Brian Wrights, is that his name? Seitz. He's a Republican lawmaker in the General Assembly, and he has floated the idea in legislation that he's filing that would allow all public school students in the state of Missouri to get free lunches. Currently, some families qualify based on income. They get the free lunches. Others get discounted lunches. Well, he's saying, so that there's no stigma whatsoever for those getting the free lunch, Everybody, even the kids with wealthy parents, they should get free lunches. Not only free lunches, but free breakfasts as well. So should 2 out of the 3 family meals be provided by the school now?
I am going to surprise you, I think, Charlie. I'm actually fine with this. I think that the partnership between Josh Hawley and Corey Bush on the radioactive levels at Janus Elementary, you know, that shows you that when it's about children and when it's about the future, then yeah, we can say let the walls fall and let's work together to better the lives of our children. We all know that there are a lot of, I think there are a lot of people on the bubble. I think that we have also seen the connection between proper nutrition and learning and being able to learn. I have no problem at all with, if we provide transportation, why not provide a healthy meals for children as well?
Of course, it's a great idea, but the reality is it will not happen. I mean, in this state, it will not. It's not a question of maybe it happens. It ain't.
That's what you said about recreational marijuana.
No,
too.
I didn't say that about recreation.
Oh, today's the day, by the way.
Yeah,
I know.
happy recreation, happy whatever. No, I would say that first of all, and I am a little biased in this case because he's not just a Republican. He's the one, and I wrote about this.
But stick to the topic.
No,
because
well,
the time is limited.
I think it's relevant. Maybe he's trying to atone for some of the most
Let's talk free
racist,
lunches.
homophobic stuff, and you have to consider the source. It's just not going to happen, and you gotta. I'd love it if it did. I'm just saying we can talk about it, but there's a million.
I think
It's
it
not
should
gonna
happen. I think Wendy's right, and it erases the stigma that in schools
great.
where these kids get a free lunch and these kids don't. And
It'd be great.
You know, I think it's a great idea,
is.
and I think rural Missouri's going to go.
No,
for
that
it.
was, I was going to say two things. Rural Missouri, okay, they have a lot of the same problems.
A lot of poverty.
You take away that, no, wait a minute. And, okay, if you serve breakfast, if breakfast is served, what does that do? That gets kids there, okay?
Correct. Good.
And if once you're there, then you stay all day. Then, just along those same lines, there's a Republican legislator, a woman, and she filed a bill to extend Medicaid for postpartum, like moms. And, you know, like I looked her up and I disagree with about 90% of what she's talking about. But on this issue, she's right.
That's
so
right.
I'm saying, like, I got to give this guy
Let me say,
I think Ray's got a point. I think Ray's got a point
It's
because
just not going to happen.
there are, 895,000 school kids in the state of Missouri. And the estimates are that it costs to provide breakfast and lunch $900 per student per year. So if you do the math, that comes out to almost $900 million for this plan to work. So I think you're right, Ray. It might be a fine idea. It might be. But
our viewers, our loyal viewers who we're talking about tonight, know that I am terrible about predictions. And I would love it if this was wrong. I'm just saying I don't think it's
But
wrong.
what should it be for also kids who go to Catholic schools too? Should they get free lunches courtesy of the state?
No.
Why not?
Because they're private schools.
But they eat.
They're private schools.
But it's nothing to do with
the
education.
State doesn't
It's their
support
food.
private schools. That's why they're private
But
schools.
they wouldn't be supporting the school. They'd be supporting the kids with
No,
food.
they're private schools are the we need separate.
Totally, I am against that. That would be one that you could probably, you could work me on that.
Sure.
Now, legislatively,
Wouldn't that be the camel's nose?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you got to give me
It's not.
something.
Guarantee
that we're not going down that lane.
That's-
I'm not
We
saying I
are
would
already
vote for
going
it,
down that
but
lane.
I would not ironclad rule that out
I would.
because nutrition is so important. And listen, people take this for granted. There are kids that are hungry in America who live in a nice house.
That's exactly
And they got a
right.
nice car.
That is
and like,
exactly
that's,
right.
And everybody agrees that a big part of the future of everything, but Missouri, St. Louis, is education and getting those kids the workplace of tomorrow. So anything you can do.
Wait a minute. There is a reason we have a public and a private education system. Now, I assume if they're going to
No, I
give
was
it
just
to,
talking about
No,
this.
I'm saying maybe we should give it to the kids at Burroughs, too. We ought to buy them lunch. I mean, it's like,
Well,
no,
let me ask you, Ray,
we're not
are you
gonna do
against
that.
National Institute of Health grants for St. Louis University?
I am not. And I'll
Well,
tell you
that's a
what.
Catholic school.
I got it. And I tell you what, I am I am. What's interesting is this is a state that every legislator, at least on the Republican side, fights Medicaid expansion. You got to be kidding me. We're talking about like some different state all of a sudden. It's great. Anybody can come up with any idea they want.
I think it's a good idea.
It's a wonderful idea. It's just not happening.
Yeah, one thing.
Try it in another
if
state.
everybody got a free lunch, if everybody got a free lunch, you took race out of the issue, and that's an issue.
Well, let me ask
good
Wendy,
luck.
speaking of free lunches, what do you think about panhandlers into pair? The legal dream team of Hugh Eastwood and Beavis Schock are representing, once again, Robert Fernandez. And he won a $150,000 judgment in federal court last year because he insists that panhandling is his free speech. So now he's into pair saying the same thing, that if others can walk down medians with a, I don't know, a fire boot, right?
Yep.
Or collecting signatures, he should be able to approach cars and ask them for a handout.
It makes me incredibly uncomfortable. I feel vulnerable if somebody approaches me at a stoplight. I will go and pick up something for somebody to eat and drop it off on my way down the shoulder or what have you. Or not the shoulder, the ramp. But I don't like people approaching me. But at the same time, I get the inconsistencies. I mean, there's a lot of gray area here. If Beavis Schock, who is clearly, I mean, he's got quite a track record of getting scofflaws out of trouble. If he believes that this is legally sound, then
I disagree. I think that in this age of carjackings, I think it's dangerous to have people walking on the old street.
And also, there's a traffic thing. Like if I'm at the red light and there's somebody panhandling, and the car two up decides they're going to talk to the panhandler, and all of a sudden the light
you're going to miss your light.
People are trying to get around.
Right.
But there's too much danger. I don't think that a person should have the right to approach cars. If he wants to be there on the median with a tin cup, and if you want to give him something, but walking in the
But
lane.
if somebody walks up my
30
driveway,
seconds.
Well, I agree with that, but I would add this. I don't think those firefighters should
Me
be out
either.
there either. In
We
other words,
agree.
I think that nobody, if you were uniform about it, they don't have a case. So if you let the firefighters and whomever out there to do it, I think then you got to let the panhandlers do it. But I think to Bill's point, we would be better off not having anyone on the medians full stop.
But I have no objection to public television stations panhandling
Yeah, well, there
and
you go.
asking you to
In the
make a
median.
worthy contribution to us. And so we invite you to join us for Donnie Bash. Let's go to Ern Mardia, who has all the details.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Right now, I hope that you are enjoying the conversation as much as I am. I always love the fiery and spirited discussions that the Donnybrokers have and the arguments, but the love between them too, right? And so you have the great opportunity to see that live in person when you become a member right now. That's right. If you become a member, we'll send you some great Donnie Bash thank you gifts. So let's dive in. At the $75 level, one time, that's $75, you will receive a ticket to see Donnie Bash live at the Sheldon Concert Hall on Thursday, June 15th of 2023 at 6 p.m. It is a great time. You get cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, you get to elbow with the Donnybrokers and also other members just like yourself. So you also get the choice to get that mug that you see the Donnybrokers drink out of every week as well. So then, though, at the $12 a month level, it's not a choice, guys. That's right, it is not a choice. You receive 2 tickets to see Donnie Bash as well as the mug. That's right, 2 tickets and the mug. I know right now you are probably standing up and applauding right now at home, but I love this mug and I love Donnie Bash so much, and I think that you will too, especially if you've been watching Donnybrook every week, and you wonder what it's like to see them live. You wonder what it's like to hear their conversations. That's right. You can join us on June 15th of 2023 and see them live at the Sheldon Concert Hall. And that's our way of saying thank you so much for becoming a member right now, because you help to sustain us. So give us a call or text GIVE at 800-568-9099 or go to our website, 9pbs.org. But thanks so much, and right now we're going to go back to the conversation with the Donnybrokers.
Thank you, Ern Mardia. And we look forward to seeing everybody June the 15th at the Sheldon. As Yale Hollander said last week, it's the social event in St. Louis of the year. So
Not the season, the year.
of the year, the decade, maybe. Yeah. So some people have fear of missing out. Don't have that, or do have that. Have that fear, because if you miss out, you're going to miss a lot.
You will miss out. And I think what people enjoy most about not only the incredibly reasonable price of the tickets, but every time you enjoy something on 9 PBS, you feel like you're invested. You know what I mean? Like you're doing your part. When you see something that is, feeding your soul one way or another, whether your intellect or just artistically, you think, oh my gosh, my family did this, and that's a great feeling.
And you're supporting PBS as well as Donnybrook.
Right.
And that's a good cause. We said it last week. More than ever, it's important. And when you support, I think the #1 PBS. You want to talk about something to put in that campaign? We have the #1 PBS station in America.
That's right.
And
That's
so there you
right.
go.
Despite
and
our efforts to drag it
well,
down.
I mean,
That's right.
yeah,
We do everything we can.
There is that. No, but yeah, I mean, you are supporting a great cause locally and nationally. And PBS locally does a lot. Obviously, this station does all kinds of, like during the
So
pandemic, it was among the best leadership in town on helping people get through the pandemic.
No doubt.
And as an example, and it continues to
Yeah.
nationally and locally.
And it's live TV. Alvin always brings that up. You're sitting there and you're watching people like us fumble around.
I was gonna say,
what is the word? And it's right there on live TV. And you can think, gosh.
I discovered
It takes
last
5
year.
of us to generate one memory sometime.
I discovered
Okay.
that the hard way last year.
So pick up the phone and join us. June the 15th, 2023. Great gift for the holidays. Wonderful stocking stuffer. Thank you very much for joining us. Bill McClellan, the mayor of St. Louis, is floating an idea to take $5 million federal dollars and distribute them among 440 families, $500 a month. And the idea is to have some sort of basic income that would be in addition to whatever they have. She's going to try and find 440 low-income individuals or families in St. Louis, and then for 18 months, they'll all get $500 each. You like that idea?
Well, I do in a bigger sense. Like I think someday we're going to have to go with universal income. Automation is squeezing jobs out, and eventually there won't be enough jobs for people. And I think we have to say we're going to help people, and basic income, I like the idea. Whether or not a city can successfully do that, I'm not so sure. And $500 a month would be a big help to a lot of people, but there's more than 440 families that could use it. So I'm not sure how practical it is, but I like the fact that Mayor Jones is thinking outside the box.
Different circumstances altogether, but we all received money for one like 10 years ago because of the economy, and then because of the pandemic, and whether you needed it or not, we got this money. It was just given to us. Go out and spend it. Okay, we kind of didn't have a problem with it, obviously. What I would like to see was, I have no problem with the 500, but I think I would like to find a way for it to go to your utility bills, for like if to maybe you might already be on some type of WIC or food stamps or something like that, but it could be used for food purchases only, where you don't get a $500 check, where it eliminates some of your overhead, and then what you do with the money that you do bring in, now that's up to you. So I would try to find some way to do it like that.
I don't think it's automation that's squeezing. I think the fact that companies simply cannot find and retain the workers anymore, and I think that we're incentivizing people to stay away from those help wanted signs.
I had an opportunity to interview Michael Tubbs, who's the person that came up with this program out in Stockton, California. And we're one of now about 100. These are pilot programs. And first of all, they are to working families. And there's very specific, and it is a pilot.
You have to be working.
Yeah, I don't know all the details, but yeah, these are working families.
Is that plan?
Yes. but you're below a certain level, and I don't know all the details, but yeah, these are working families. And the idea of it is, as Michael Tubbs put it to me, is if you invest in people, they will invest in themselves. And the whole concept is to give as he says, the best solution for people that are lacking cash is to give them cash. The idea is to count on them to make the right choices. In Stockton specifically, and I think the jury's out. I mean, they're just starting doing this. In Stockton, there was a fair amount of independent research done that showed people only like 1% of the money went to drugs and alcohol. And again, you can.
But that was self-reporting, right?
Well, okay, but I'm just saying that the independent research.
Exactly. It's all self-reporting.
Excuse me.
Let me say.
Whoa, stop. The independent researchers found that people did, as Michael said, they do what the rest of us would do in money to reduce debt, to do the right thing with it.
They do this in Cuba too, and they did it in the Soviet Union. But here's the thing.
I think it's a good concept.
I think Wendy's right. I think Alvin's got a point. Since we are looking for dispatchers, people to drive buses, we're looking for people to pick up rubbish, why are we giving money away for people and not asking them to at least pick up litter or plant daffodils or be traffic guards or something?
Like works progress and all those bad things.
These are not mutually exclusive.
I think that's another idea. Okay, if you work for the city, you don't get it all at one time, but you will get an equivalent of an extra $500.
Something like that.
You know, a more.
Or Target.
That seems like a New Deal program from the 30s.
Exactly.
I like that.
Where we're going to put people to work.
Saved us.
It's not mutually exclusive to this program, which is being tested around the country.
How about this? Right now, we can't find nursing home workers. They're paid so poorly. So how about if you work in a nursing home in St. Louis, you get $500 a month?
Great idea. It's not mutually exclusive to this program.
Yep.
Ray, I don't know if we have any disagreement, but you took a look in your column this week in the Riverfront Times at an agreement the county had with Chief Tim Fitch, now on the St. Louis County Council, regarding his pension. And we have limited time for the rest of the program, but basically speaking, the county reneged on its deal, and it really irked the judge overseeing the matter.
It did, and 2 weeks ago, the county appealed the judge's ruling and basically questioned whether he could, I don't know what the judge, but very clearly in July it was reported that this long-standing argument over a couple of years over pensions had been resolved. There was a settlement, and according to the judge, interestingly enough, neither parties talked to me, there was a deal cut, and there was an email in the judge's thing, citing the acting county attorney, the person who was outsourced, who had the full authority, as he pointed out, the judge, of the county attorney, representing the county to make the deal. He sends an email to across the desk to the Fitch's attorney saying, "I'm really sorry. I know we're at the finish line, but my marching orders have changed." Theoretically, he shouldn't be getting marching orders. He's the acting county attorney, so I think it is a very bad
He'd be
sign.
getting them from Page. I mean,
He has to be. I mean, who else could he be getting them
You know,
from? I mean, who could give them to him? And my point is, the issue here isn't to argue about pension details. It's that you keep your word when you make a deal. It's a bad sign for the next 4 years.
This is the
bad
same legal department that recently failed to show up in court in a wrongful death lawsuit when the county was being sued for $40 million by the family of a boy who drowned last summer in a county pool, and the county failed to send attorneys.
But this isn't the fault
of the judge.
This one isn't the fault of the legal department.
Well,
this is the fault of whoever
know.
gave this guy. Well, I don't think they could have. Whoever gave this guy marching orders to change a deal, it sends a real bad message to everybody dealing with St. Louis County.
Well, okay, and I'm not going to defend that Page of this because I honestly don't know that he did. We don't have proof. But at the same time, I might say like, oh yeah, I reneged on the deal. Yeah, you've been a pain in my you know what, Mr. Fitch. And guess what? I won.
Well, looks
so you
that
got
way.
4 years.
Elections have consequences.
There you go.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it right.
Well, that's make it right is right.
Doesn't make it
well,
right.
great column, and Alvin Reid, we're going to move on to you because we've been speaking about money all night long. Members of the Board of Aldermen in the city of St. Louis might be especially able to donate to 9 PBS starting next year because there's a proposal to raise their salaries from $30,000 to $70,000. The aldermen are saying, look, the number of wards are being divided by 2. Instead of 28, there will be 14. Our work's going to double, so should our pay.
Well, I would say this, that, you know, in infinite wisdom, and this really did not have to do, although it had everything to do with the county executive, bad decision on saying, like, you know, you can't have another job if you're, because one day somebody's going to be the county executive that's not Sam Page, and I think anybody who wanted to be the county executive should be able to run for it, but they won't if they got a regular job. So if you're now an alderman and your double the work is going to pay, okay, all right, if you get $70,000, I don't have a problem with that, but almost like the $500 gift, you have to declare, you have to show, you have to prove that you are working 40 hours a week as an alderman.
But they're not, let's get clear. This was a really bad idea they had. And I probably didn't react to one I had. They went from, I think it's 37 to 72. And their work is not doubling because they have a bigger ward. It just isn't. I mean, they're going to do.
How do you? Well, no, you represent more people.
You represent more people. You aren't doing twice as much work as an alderman.
Wait a minute. The mayor of New York does the exact same job that the mayor of St. Louis does.
Sure. I mean,
oh no.
What do you think? Do they work the same number of hours? Mayor St. Louis isn't working less than the mayor of New York. What are you talking about?
Well, what they're really saying, though, is that, we're going to do this full-time. We're not going to have another job.
Right.
So we ought to be full-time.
They're not going to do it. My point is
I'm not sure it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Don't you want the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker being members of the board so you get a variety of diversity of talents?
I agree. But that's where the 70,000
I agree.
comes in.
Look, I think they should have. Don't misunderstand. I think 37 wasn't enough. I think had they increased it, remember this whole process 10 years. The cutting the board in half was done 10 years ago. These things take time. I think they should have increased it.
But it is
I think
time.
No, I'm saying the optics of them going from
But I still
that
don't
fast.
think they should have cut the numbers of the board.
Oh, I do.
know I'm alone on
I
that.
do.
Well, let's hope they don't cut the numbers of panelists here on Donnybrook. But doubling our pay, that might be a good idea. You can write us with your comments on that by sending that letter to 9PBS, 3655 Olive Street, 63108. We love those emails. Donnybrook at 9pbs.org and those tweets, hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Call the 9 line at 314-512-9094. Make sure you listen to us on your favorite podcast source, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play. Those are the big four. And we hope you join us at Donny Bash. So thank you for joining us June the 15th as we raise money for 9PBS. That concludes this week's program. Thank you for joining us.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you put it into words. I took like 100. You just said it in 5.
I didn't make any friends.